Hello guys, welcome back. Now in this session we are going to discuss about provider architecture and versions. So let's look into the agenda. What are the topics we are going to cover in this session? So guys, majorly we are going to cover two topics. First one is the provider architecture and second one is the provider versioning. So let's start our discussion. So guys, so far we have seen that whenever we want to create any of the infrastructure, we need to write a TF file, and that TF file contains a provider block where we will mention that where we want to create the infrastructure and the details about the provider. Then we have the resource block. Once we finish the writing of the TF file and when we write the Terraform in it, then Terraform download the required provider and then the Terraform provider will interact with the service provider. In this case, we are having Terraform AWS provider which basically communicating with the AWS to provision the EC2. So it is whole sole responsibility of the Terraform AWS provider in this case to make the connection with the service provider with the help of authentication which we have provided. And once authentication is being done, all the infrastructure provisioning is done through the Terraform provider. For this case, I am using the AWS. If you are using other provider, then Terraform download that provider. In this example, we are using AWS. If you are using Azure, then it is going to be the Azure provider. But the intent would be the same. All the communication happened through the provider for infrastructure provisioning. So this is the high level of architecture of the Terraform provider. Irrespective of whichever the service provider you are creating the services, Terraform do the communication with the help of their respective providers. And internally it will call some of the API to provision the infrastructure within the service provider. For this example, we have already seen that how we have created the EC2 instance within AWS, and this is the representation of the same program which we have written in one of our earlier session. So over here you will look into that. We have written that provider block where we have mentioned that which provider we want to use. So here we have mentioned that HashiCorp AWS, and along with that we have provided other configuration detail like resources, which resources we want to create. We have already seen DynamoDB example. We have already seen IAM user creation with the help of Terraform. For this example, we have also seen that how we have created the EC2 instance. So guys, this is about the architecture of the provider block. Now you must be asking that what actually the versioning is. So guys, let's talk about provider versioning. So guys, Terraform provider comes with many versions. So you must be asking that why it is coming in many versions. It is because Terraform is the evolving project, and whenever any of the user finds any bug, then it is being reported to the Terraform team, and Terraform team will provide the fixes for that particular provider where bug is being reported, and then a new version is being released, and that's the reason you will find that some of the version is not having some of the features and some of the version is having some of the features. So guys, now let's look into one of the important aspect of versioning. One thing you notice over here is that we haven't provided any versions over here, but still it has picked the Terraform provider. So you must be asking that which version of provider it picked. So whenever if you are not mentioning any of the version in this block, then it will pick the latest one. So let's look into which version it has picked. Now if you will go over here it is a Terraform folder .terraform. Let's go inside that and we will check that which version it has downloaded. Let's right click on it and click on reveal in file explorer, and over here you will see that within the plugins you will find that within HashiCorp there is 3.6.0. so this is the version of the AWS Terraform provider, which is the latest one. Now the question comes over here is, suppose if I want to use older version of provider, then what should I do? Then you have to specify the version argument within the provider block. So let's look into that. So over here you need to come and you need to specify version equal to, and specify over here, for example, I'm going to specify 2.7. Save it. Now let's run it. To run it, we need to go to the view terminal, and over here we need to specify Terraform init so that it will download the specified provider. Over here we have mentioned we want that version 2.7. So let's look into that. enter. So you will see that it is matching the version 2.7 and now it is installing version 2.7.0 that we have specified. Earlier it was version 3.6, that is the latest one. So now it has downloaded the version 2.7 and over here you will see that it has also downloaded version 2.7.0 which we have specified. Now you must be asking that in what scenario I should use the oldest version or an older version. If everything inside the 3.6, why we should bother about the older version? So the answer to your question is, suppose that if you have provisioned an infrastructure 1 year back and you have provisioned that infrastructure with the help of provider which was latest at that time. Now due to some project requirement, one change has been requested, and when you try to apply that changes with the latest provider and your code is breaking, or say your infrastructure is breaking due to some bug within the latest provider version. So in such scenario, it is always recommended that you should use the same version which you have used while provisioning the infrastructure at that time. So in such scenario, you have to specify explicitly the version number that you want to use to provision the infrastructure. And how do you specify? You should specify like this. Another point which I wanted to tell you, suppose if you want to use version which is greater than 2.7 and less than 3.1, I want to use the version in between that, so you can do that as well. So you need to specify the conditional argument over here. So you need to tell that I want version which is greater than 2.7 and less than 3.1. So you can specify like that. So whichever the version which falls between these range, that will be downloaded. So save it and let's run it, and we will tell that this time again terraform init, and let's look into that what it is going to do. We got an error due to typo. Make sure that you are specifying within the double quotes. Now let's run it. So here we need to specify terraform init enter. So over here you will see that it is finding the version matching over here, and then it found that 3.0, and that is what it is downloading. So this way you can easily specify the versions for the provider which falls between the ranges. So it has done the installation. So let's look into the .terraform folder, and over here you will see that it has downloaded version 3.0.0, and this is what I wanted to demonstrate you in this session. Now let's sum up the session. So guys, in this session we have understand the provider architecture, Terraform provider architecture, and we have also understand the Terraform provider versioning, where we have discussed about why we use the versioning, and we have also understand that if we want to use a specific provider version, then how we can install it, or say how we can initialize it. So on this note, I am stopping over here. See you in the next session. Till then, bye bye, take care.